the day of returning home after the hunting trip. As dusk fell, painting the sky in gentle shades of orange and red, Jax and his two sons, Leo and Max, finally set their tired yet steady feet on the familiar path leading home. The long hunting trip had drained much of their strength. Their clothes were worn, stained with mud, and carrying the scent of smoke and fire, yet on each of their faces was a clear expression of calm satisfaction. Slung over Jax's shoulder was a large backpack, bulging with wild game, streamfish, and bundles of green vegetables gathered along the way. Leo carried a heavy bamboo basket, while Max, the youngest son, hugged tightly a bundle of dry firewood he had proudly collected himself. Though his legs ached, Max walked briskly, his heart brimming with excitement at the thought of seeing his mother again. This hunting trip had not been an easy one. They had crossed dense forests where sunlight rarely pierced the thick canopy. On some nights, the three of them slept beside a campfire, listening to the distant calls of wild animals and feeling the cold slowly seep into their skin. Jax always led the way, carefully observing every footprint on the ground, teaching his sons how to read the signs of animals and how to respect nature. Leo, as the eldest, learned quickly, growing more mature with each passing day and gradually helping his father make important decisions. Max, though still young, had become stronger through this journey, learning to endure fatigue and to value every small contribution he made. When the familiar wooden house appeared in a clearing at the edge of the forest, the hearts of all three instantly felt lighter. Jax paused for a moment, took a deep breath of the familiar air of home, and smiled. To him, returning safely with his sons was far more important than any trophy they might bring back. Leo looked at the house with pride, knowing that this journey had proven he was grown enough to share responsibility with his father. Max could not hide his joy. He ran a few steps ahead, calling out loudly for his mother. Hearing his voice, their mother hurried out of the house. During the days the three of them had been away, she had lived with a mixture of worry and hope. Every morning she stood on the porch and gazed toward the distant forest, longing to see their familiar figures return. And now, as the image of the three appeared before her eyes, her heart seemed to burst with happiness. She ran forward, embracing Max first, then Leo, and finally Jax. Her trembling hands rested on her husband's shoulders, as if to be sure this was real, that they had truly returned home safely. Her eyes shone with emotion as she took in each dirt-smudged yet radiant face. The small scratches on Leo's hands, Max's boots caked with mud, and the heavy pack on Jax's back, all were proof of a challenging but successful journey. When she saw the baskets of food set down before the porch, her smile grew even brighter. To her, they were not just provisions for the days ahead, but the result of effort, unity, and safe return. Unable to hide her emotions, she laughed and spoke through tears. She asked each of them if they were tired, if they were hurt anywhere. Jax reassured her in his warm, steady voice, saying that everything was fine and that the boys had done very well. Leo stood nearby, a little shy but filled with pride as he heard his father's praise. Max chattered excitedly, telling how he had helped his father and brother, speaking of shimmering stream fish and nights spent around the campfire. That moment of reunion filled the space around the house with an unusual warmth. The worries, waiting, and exhaustion of many days seemed to melt away. The mother felt clearly that the most precious thing was not the amount of food they had brought home, but the fact that all three had returned healthy, safe, and more closely bonded than ever. She silently thanked life and the forest for offering enough challenges to help them grow, yet enough kindness to allow them to return. As the last light of sunset faded, the family stood together on the porch, sharing smiles and loving glances. The long hunting journey had come to an end, but it opened within each of them a deep sense of peace. For them, this moment of returning was the greatest reward of all, the reward of safety, of family, and of the simple happiness of being together. As the weariness from the hunting trip gradually faded, the whole family gathered together inside the small wooden house, where the flickering fire from the hearth spread a gentle warmth throughout the space. After many days apart, simply being able to sit side by side like this was a simple yet deeply precious happiness. Jack sat down on his familiar wooden chair and placed a cup of hot water on the table while the mother quietly looked at her husband and children, her eyes filled with love. Leo and Max sat close to their parents and eagerly waiting for the stories about to be told, as if the recent hunting journey were a fascinating book they wanted to reread together from the beginning. Jax began by talking about the first days in the forest, when all three of them were still unfamiliar with everything. He spoke of misty early mornings, when the forest was silent and only the rustling of leaves beneath their footsteps could be heard. Leo picked up the story, adding details about the first time he spotted animal tracks pressed into the damp ground, and the thrilling moment when the three of them had to stop, observe, and decide whether to continue following the trail. The mother listened attentively, occasionally asking questions, her eyes shining with curiosity mixed with pride as she heard her sons recount such a challenging journey. Then it was Max's turn, the youngest, yet the one who told his stories with the greatest enthusiasm and sincerity. He spoke of nights spent sleeping in the tent, when he listened to the wind blowing through the trees and imagined all kinds of strange shapes. He giggled as he recalled nearly knocking over a pot of water by the campfire or catching his very first stream fish. These innocent stories made the whole family laugh, sweeping away the last traces of fatigue. The mother reached out to gently ruffle Max's hair, smiling as she listened, her heart overflowing with happiness that her children had gained such memorable experiences and still returned home safely. The atmosphere in the house grew unusually warm as memories continued to be shared. Leo talked about the lesson in patience his father had taught him, about waiting for hours simply to observe and understand the rhythm of the forest. Jax added that the trip had not been just about hunting, but also about teaching the children to respect nature, to know when to move forward and when to stop. The mother nodded, clearly feeling that the journey had helped her children grow and mature in many ways. As the stories gradually settled, the mother stood up with a smile and said it was time to prepare dinner. Immediately, the whole family set to work together, as if following a natural routine deeply rooted in their lives. Jax went outside to tend the fire, carefully arranging the logs so the flames would burn evenly and warmly. Leo took charge of washing and chopping vegetables, his hands quick yet careful, remembering his father's lessons on using a knife safely. Max was given simpler tasks, carrying water, arranging bowls and plates, and wiping the table, but he did them with a serious expression and a sense of pride. In the small kitchen, the sounds of knives on cutting boards, running water, and the crackling fire blended together into a familiar and comforting rhythm. The mother cooked while chatting, asking for more details about parts of the journey she had not yet heard. Jax and Leo occasionally added more stories, while Max eagerly shared what he found most interesting. The aroma of grilled meat, sautéed forest vegetables, and wood smoke mingled in the air and spreading throughout the house and warming everyone's hearts. As they worked together, no one felt tired or forced. Every small task became meaningful because it was done with sharing and love. From time to time, Jax paused and looked at his wife and children, gratitude swelling in his chest. The mother felt the same, sensing clearly that it was these simple moments that gave their family strength and helped them overcome life's hardships. While chopping vegetables, Leo suddenly realized how much he had changed. He no longer felt like a child who simply relied on his parents, but like a true part of the family, able to shoulder responsibility and share the load. Max wiped the table while softly humming a simple tune, his young voice light and joyful. Hearing it, the mother smiled, her heart filled with warmth. As dinner neared completion, the family continued talking, laughter drifting through the thin haze of smoke. The small house was no longer just a shelter after a hunting trip, but a space of reunion, of shared memories, and of nurtured family bonds. In the busyness of preparing the meal, they were not only cooking food, but also rekindling emotions and strengthening the ties that had been forged throughout the long days of their hunting journey. When all the dishes were neatly arranged on the familiar wooden table, the whole family gathered together under the warm, yellow light. Outside, night had fallen over the forest, a gentle breeze slipping through the cracks of the door and carrying the chill of evening air. Inside the small house, however, the atmosphere was completely different, warm, peaceful, and filled with togetherness. This dinner after the hunting trip was not merely a meal, but a moment the entire family had been waiting for, a sweet reward for days of effort and patient anticipation. Jack sat at the head of the table, his eyes slowly moving from one family member to another, as if he wanted to fully memorize this moment. The mother sat beside him, gently placing food onto the children's plates, a soft smile always present on her face. Leo sat upright, appearing more mature than usual, while Max could not hide his excitement, his eyes shining as he looked at the fragrant dishes before him. The soft clinking of bowls and chopsticks blended with the crackling sound of burning wood from the hearth, creating a familiar and comforting melody. From the very first bites, a joyful atmosphere spread across the table. Max was the first to break the silence with his innocent stories. He talked about the delight of eating the very fish he had helped his father catch, his proud voice making everyone laugh. The mother gently patted his head, while Jack smiled, deeply feeling that simple yet profound happiness. Leo joined in as well, sharing memorable moments from the forest, the lessons he had learned, and even the times when the three of them laughed together just to forget their exhaustion. The mother listened to every story, sometimes nodding, sometimes laughing when Max said something amusing. Her heart felt full as she watched her children eat heartily and chatter happily. To her, this meal was not only the result of the hunting trip, but also proof of the family's safety and closeness. Every dish on the table carried a story, a memory, and every burst of laughter made the house feel even warmer. Jack slowly raised his cup and spoke a few simple but heartfelt words. He thanked his wife for patiently waiting and thanked his children for accompanying him and doing their best throughout the journey. His deep, steady voice brought a brief hush to the table, and then Leo and Max shyly expressed their thanks to their parents as well. That moment, though brief, was full of meaning, like an invisible thread binding each heart together. The meal continued with lively laughter. Leo recounted the time he nearly slipped on a muddy slope, while Max added exaggerated details that made the story even funnier, causing the whole family to laugh uncontrollably. The mother gently reminded them to eat more slowly, yet her eyes still sparkled with joy as she watched their innocence. The fatigue and worries of previous days seemed to melt away completely, replaced by a rare sense of peace. As the meal neared its end, no one was in a hurry to get up. They lingered at the table, savoring the last bites and talking about plans for the days ahead. Max leaned back in his chair, his stomach full but his face still glowing with happiness. Leo rested against the table, feeling warmth spread through his chest. The mother cleared the dishes slowly, as if trying to prolong this precious moment of togetherness. Under the soft glow of the oil lamp, the family ended the meal with smiles and loving glances. It was not just a dinner, but a symbol of reunion and enduring family bonds after days of separation. In a vast world full of challenges, their small house became a peaceful refuge, a place where every evening meal gently reminded them that happiness can be as simple as sitting together, eating together, laughing together, and loving one another. The recent hunting trip was not merely a journey to find food for the family, but also a special experience that bound its members together in a deeper and more lasting way. Throughout the days of trekking through forests and crossing streams, the three, Jax, Leo, and Max, faced fatigue, challenges, and even tense moments side by side. It was in these circumstances that they learned to trust, support, and listen to one another more fully. Every step taken and every decision made carried a shared responsibility, strengthening the bond between father and sons more than ever before. For Leo, the journey was a chance to grow up and learn how to shoulder responsibility and share it with his father. For Max, it was the first time he truly understood the value of effort and teamwork. And for Jax, the journey was not just about hunting, but an opportunity to pass on lessons of patience, courage, and respect for nature to his children. The nights spent by the campfire with stories told in the flickering light became unforgettable memories for all three. When they returned home, the trophies they brought back were proof of their hard work, but even more precious were the memories created along the way. The laughter, the sharing, and the sense of safety found in being together made the journey more meaningful than any plentiful meal. Those memories would remain in each of their hearts, becoming an invisible thread that binds their family together through the years.